Regular meeting number 49 will now come to order. Can we please stand for the playing of the national anthem? Councilmember Page, will you lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, Council is pleased to be joined with Reverend Dr. Judy Alston, minister with the Disciples of Christ, to pray with us. Pastor, welcome to Council.
Thank you for the opportunity. Let us pray. Holy and gracious one, known by many names and beyond all names, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of community, Spirit of justice. On this evening, we ask your blessings on the people who have been called to lead this city of Columbus, where we live, we work, we love, and we play. Help these, our leaders, to first ask the questions, what do they need to learn? How might they need to change? And to whom do they need to listen? Remind them, because we all forget from time to time, especially in the noisiness of this time today, that they are servants first and that it is their responsibility and ours to serve the common good of all. Yeah. Remind them that no matter where they live, everyone, where we live, everyone, this all, gay, straight, transgender, black or white, Hispanic or Asian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Sikh, atheist, this all includes our neighbors, our friends, our family, and that they as servants and leaders have been called to respect and protect the least of those among us, those who are on the fringes of society, the strangers, the immigrants, those who live in the margins, those who are alone. Grant them and us the wisdom and courage to know and to do what is right, good, and true. May we all speak out when it is time to speak out and listen, patiently and receptively when it's time to listen. May they and we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, by the spirit of love. This we pray in the name of all that we hold sacred and holy, all that we hold good and true and right. May it be so, and so it is. Amen.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Are there resolutions from members of council or Councilmember Brown?
Thank you, President Harden. I don't have a resolution, but I do have an announcement. Tomorrow marks 1 year since Columbus resident Edith Espinal faced with deportation and separation from her children, entered sanctuary in the Columbus Mennonite Church, where she continues to be welcomed by the church and the community. Like immigrants throughout the history of our country, Edith came to the United States 15 years ago looking for opportunity and protection from persecution. Our city is her home, where she is raising her children, Isidro, Brandau, and Stephanie, with her husband, Manuel. Nonetheless, last year she received a deportation order after her asylum case was denied. It is important to note that she was living in Columbus with her family legally prior to the denial of her asylum case. Faced with being separated from her family, she decided to enter sanctuary, an act driven by her desire not to be taken from her children, an overwhelming instinct that any parent can relate to strongly. And I ask every parent to take a moment and relate. Is there anything that you wouldn't do for your child? Is there any step you wouldn't take for your children? And imagine the thought of being separated from them. Think about what you have in common with Edith. The overly aggressive deportation tactics of the Trump administration do not make our community safer. Separating Edith Espinal from her family, a mother from her children, does not make Columbus a better place. In fact, it does the opposite. Unnecessarily breaking apart families weakens our community because it imposes huge financial strains on families, can result in the placement of children in the foster care system, and burdens state and local resources. Not to mention, it's heartless and nonsensical. Whether it's at the border of our country or within the borders of our city, we must stand against family separation. As Edith Espinal marks 1 year living in sanctuary here in Columbus, I want to take this opportunity to recognize her as a longtime resident of our city and support her efforts to remain and reunite with her family. I also want to recognize that Pastor Joel Miller of the Columbus Mennonite Church and Edith's daughter, Stephanie, are here. Would you please take a moment and share Edith's story, if you're able?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Joel Miller. I'm the pastor of Columbus Mennonite Church in Clintonville. And for the last year, our congregation has become bound together with the life of Edith and her family. Last summer, despite having been in the U.S. for 20 years and raising a family here in Columbus, Edith received a deportation order. She was ordered to buy her own plane ticket back to Michoacan, Mexico. This is an area with so much violent crime that it's currently on the State Department's do not visit list. As cruel as this sounds, it's a typical story for persons like Edith. And this is important for us to know. Of all the counties in the country, Franklin County has been in the very top tier for deportations of people without criminal records. What's not typical about Edith's story is that she hasn't been deported and that she's been able to tell her story publicly. Rather than be separated from her family, she sought sanctuary inside one of the very few places immigration officers have said they will not enter to make arrests, a house of worship. When Mennonites tell our history, we remember a time when we too sought sanctuary from violence and came to places like this country. What a sacred calling to now be in a position to offer sanctuary. For a bit of context, as of now, there are right at 50 public sanctuary cases in the U.S. and many more that are not public. 2 of those cases are in Columbus, Miriam Vargas of First English Lutheran being the other. There's potentially a 3rd case in the works. This puts Columbus on the leading edge of a national movement. Over the last years, I've done a lot of thinking about space over the last year, about the kinds of spaces we create and offer one another. I've been grateful and surprised at how the physical space of sanctuary for Edith that she occupies has helped expand moral space within our community. Congregations, community organizations, and individuals have rallied to Edith's side and been a part of this expansion of moral space, practicing neighborliness, expressing a love that knows no borders. I want to thank Councilmember Brown for her leadership in this area and for her visits to Edith. I want to thank President Hardin for opening up space for this vital conversation on council floor. and for his visits to Edith. I want to thank Councilmember Remy for making time to visit Edith. Our door is open to all council members who wish to support Edith and meet her face-to-face to better understand her story. Finally, let's be clear about the very difficult work we're doing here. Sanctuary is a great thing, but the point of sanctuary is to get someone out of sanctuary. There's nothing Edith wants more than to return to her West Side apartment with her family. One of the most painful parts of this experience for me has been watching as our church building has become a prison for Edith. For her sake, I pray I and we don't need to be here a year from now observing another anniversary. There are things we can and have been doing for her to go home. I want to end by extending the invitation for all of us in this room to be a part of the expansion of moral space in our time, most specifically to partner with Edith so she can go home.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Stephanie Gonzalez. I'm Edith Espinal's daughter. She is currently in sanctuary. I'm not here to tell her story. I'm here to ask, if not to demand, for you to pass a resolution. My mother has been in sanctuary for a year, and nothing has been done. All we have received are words and no actions. It's been 365 days that my mom hasn't been able to live a normal life. My brother was taken to emergency in June because of a strong pain in his stomach. He was also recently in a car accident and was also taken to emergency. In those two important situations, my mom could not be there with him, taking care of him and telling him that everything will be fine. I'm sorry. In situations like those is when we need our mother. I hate seeing my mom in this situation, and I know for sure she doesn't deserve it. She has never committed a crime. All she wanted was for her family to have a better life. What happened with making America great again? You are destroying families, and you have the power to avoid it. The community and the media knows what's going on, and we have their support. They're also angry that you have done nothing. The community chose you to make a difference and to help people out, but I don't see any of that happening. No one in this room will ever understand what it feels like to be in the position my family has been put in. When you make the decision of whether or not you want to pass this resolution, I want you to think about you and your family being in this position that my mom and my family is in. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Councilmember Remy.
This past Friday, I joined Council President Hardin and Councilmember Elizabeth Brown at the Columbus Mennonite Church in Clintonville to visit Edith Espinal. Edith has spent, as you've heard, the past year inside the church in order to remain close to her family. As an undocumented immigrant, she has legal challenges that ultimately may be granted. However, she has been forced to seek refuge at the church until a cumbersome and laborious legal process take place. Tomorrow, as you have heard, will mark 1 year that she has spent inside the church. Columbus is a city of vast diversity. From the point in 1990 that I graduated from high school until now, the arrival of immigrants from all walks of the world have made Columbus an incredibly vibrant and diverse city. From restaurants from around the globe to entrepreneurs that open thriving storefronts to the artists that create such a diversity in our community, our immigrant population is one to be cherished. Policies on the national level have been tearing communities apart, especially immigrant communities. Edith Espinal, after her contributions to our community, is one of our local neighbors that have been torn from her husband and children after living here for the past couple of decades. Edith deserves the right to rejoin her family while her appeals are being heard. In speaking with my wife, who is a CCS teacher, she was telling me about how an 8th grade student her 8th grade students were asked to do a report on a topic of interest. One of the groups decided to do a report on DACA. One of the other parents in the room had a problem with the students doing this type of a report and made it clear to their teacher. He was under the belief, as many are in this country right now, that if they are here and undocumented in any form, that we need to send them back. As he watched the presentations being given and realizing that this was affecting one of his daughter's closest friends, he sought out the teacher afterwards and said, "I know her father. He's a good man. His daughter is one of my daughter's closest friends." His personal interaction changed his mind. I bring this story up because until you have sat with someone like Edith and have seen the pain on her face and her family's face, you can't paint a broad brush about policy. Edith deserves our compassion as she sits in her prison. Although a welcoming and inviting place, she can't be with her son who recently was hospitalized after an accident, nor her 2 other children and her husband. She can't enjoy strolling down the street like the rest of us enjoy, and the freedoms that we enjoy in this great city. She can't truly be a part of her family until she is given the opportunity to be home while her appeals are being heard. I urge those of you that haven't had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Espinal to arrange to do so. I urge the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency to reopen her case to allow her appeal to move forward. And I urge all to have a more compassionate view of people in Ms. Espinal's predicament. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown, and thank you, Councilmember Remy. Thank you to the family, to Stephanie, to Pastor. This is about a person, and this is about remembering that for a year a person has been living in jail in sanctuary in our city. And I had the opportunity to visit Edith in March, and I was extremely moved. But truthfully, when I came home and went back to work and did the things that we all do, it kind of falls to the back of your mind. And so that's why when Councilmember Brown asked for this time, I thought it was important that we all take a moment and sit here and think about someone who is in our city right now, and how we can all, and as Pastor said, create the moral space. And so I think I speak for the entire council. Our hearts and our minds and our energy is behind Edith as we work to encourage the federal government to create more compassionate laws for our residents. And so I'm just going to ask for a quick moment of silence as we think about Edith and remember her year and pray that we are not in this situation a year from now. Thank you. Is that it? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight I have 2 resolutions. This evening I would like to invite Teresa Langer and Assistant Chief Jim Cannell to the podium. Resolution 0273X 2018 to recognize Teresa Langer for being named Member of the Year by the National Management Association. Whereas the National Management Association is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to the managerial excellence, personal and professional growth, and leadership development. And whereas the Columbus chapter of the NMA was founded in 1981 as the first public sector chapter in the country. And whereas Teresa Langer with the Division of Fire has been named the 2018 National Member of the Year by NMA. And whereas Teresa was chosen for her tireless dedication, engagement with NMA, she has been an integral part of the development of the local chapter, recruited city employees to the organization, promoted the organization's values of self-improvement, cooperation, professional development, exchange of ideas, and service to the community. Whereas on September 12th, Teresa represented Columbus at the National NMA Conference in San Antonio, Texas, and be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus that this council does hereby express its appreciation for the outstanding contributions that have been made by Teresa Langer to the Department of Public Safety and congratulate her on being named the National Management Member of the Year. Are there any comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
And with that, I'd like to turn the podium over to Assistant Chief Cannell for some comments.
Thank you. Well, I'm the luckiest chief in the city of Columbus because I came to my job 3 years ago and Teresa was there. So Teresa inherited me, and that's why I call myself very, very lucky and very fortunate. After the Ohio State-Penn State game this weekend, I watched the press conferences afterwards, and James Franklin, the coach of Penn State, to put this in perspective, he described Ohio State, the difference between great and elite. And he described Ohio State as an elite program. He runs a great program, and that was the difference in that game. And so today, when I'm thinking about that one word to describe Teresa Langer, I thought to myself, I went back to that speech that James Franklin gave there towards the end, and I thought, she is an elite employee for the city of Columbus. Not great, she is elite. And we are very, very lucky to have her. She's very caring, she's very patient, she's a great family person. She knows when to step up, and she knows when to stand down. So she understands who we serve in the fire department, and we serve our members who serve the citizens of the city of Columbus. So our members are our customers. Probably one of the greatest things she does for us is she coordinates and runs our awards program. And if anybody's been to the division's awards program knows that it's a top-notch thing that we do for our employees every year. And we can look at Teresa and say, Teresa is our awards program, and she runs it, which allows me to concentrate on the operations of the fire department. So I just want to say congratulations and thank you very much. And we thought maybe we might lose her to retirement at mid-year or so, and we were wrong, and we're glad for that. Ladies and gentlemen, Teresa Langer.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you, Councilmember Brown, for that resolution. Good afternoon, all. Council members, elected officials. You know, it was 27 years ago today I moved to this great city of Columbus. And I first started as a new employee in the Department of Public Service Refuse Collection Division. And the norm and the standard there was to be an NMA member, because they told me that was the way to your climbing the ladder of success. So I am very grateful that I accepted that invitation, because I know I wouldn't be standing here today if I was not an NMA member. So thanks to Kathy Spatz, who nominated me as the National Member of the Year. I'm still in awe of receiving that recognition, and I'm in awe of receiving this recognition. I want to personally thank Fire Chief Kevin O'Connor, my great boss, Chief Kennel, people that made today possible, Assistant Director Kathy Collins, who told me he couldn't be here today, Lieutenant Terry Neal, all of my team members here today, my local 4502. I love my job, I love my local, I love the city of Columbus. So in closing, it is my hope that the mayor and the directors and you on City Council will continue to support the NMA and its members, because I know it will be as rewarding to them as it was and is to me. Thank you.
Teresa, one comment from me is that the best way to evaluate someone is by the people around them. And look at the folks around you, dear. They all came here because of you, and that's pretty special. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown.
Sit down now, guys. Thank you. Council President, the second resolution is I would like to thank Lieutenant David Sawyer and Assistant Chief David Walton, and ask them to approach the podium. Resolution 0288, 2018, to declare the week of October 7th through 13th, 2018, to be Fire Prevention Week in Columbus, Ohio. Whereas the 2018 Fire Prevention Week theme, look, listen, learn, be aware, fire can happen anywhere, effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to increase our safety from fire. And whereas homes are the greatest risk for fires, the National Fire Prevention Association estimates that fire departments across the United States responded to 352,000 home fires in 2016. And whereas home fires were responsible for 4 out of 5 fire-related deaths each year, resulting in a death total of over 2,735 people in 1916. The fire death rate per 1,000 home fires reported to U.S. fire departments was 10% higher in 2016 than in 1980. Whereas a home fire escape plan provides the skill set and know-how to quickly, safely escape a home fire situation, and whereas a home fire escape plan includes 2 exits from every room in the home, a path to the outside from each exit, smoke alarms in all the required locations, and a meeting place outside where everyone in the home will meet upon exiting. Home fire escape plans should be developed by all members of the household and make it fun. Practicing a home fire escape plan twice a year ensures that everyone in the household knows what to do in a real fire situation. Therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus that we proclaim October 7th through the 13th, 2018 as Fire Prevention Week. We urge all residents of Columbus to develop a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and to practice it again twice a year and to participate in many public safety initiatives that are going to be efforts of the Columbus Fire Division and its emergency services during the Fire Prevention Week. If there are no questions, I move for adoption.
Second. Please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Adopted.
At this time, I'd like to turn the podium over to Chief Walton and to David Sawyer.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown, President Harden, the rest of City Council. We do have a lot of activities planned for Fire Prevention Week. Starting with Sunday, we have the Firefighters Memorial, which is just across the street, where we honor the Columbus Division of Firefighters that have died in the line of duty, and all the firefighters that work for the Columbus Division of Fire who have passed away in the last year. We have the, as Chief Kennel already mentioned, the Division's award ceremony, where we not only honor our members who went above and beyond, but civilians who happened to be at the right place at the right time and did the right thing. And we find that very important to recognize them. We have a citywide fire station open house the following Saturday between 1 and 4, so stop by any fire station in the Columbus Division of Fire, and we'll be happy to show you the truck, the equipment, and so forth. We are very excited. Later this month, we have groundbreaking ceremony for Fire Station 35, and if you've been out in the east corridor of Columbus, you can realize that the traffic's probably going to be bad for the next 3 hours, and we're really looking forward to having a fire station off of Wagner Road. We have many, many, many school programs, safe house events. I believe we have 15 safe house events scheduled. Fire extinguishing training. Emergency Services has 67 different events so far scheduled for the rest of this month in October to recognize Fire Prevention Week. And we have Senior Fall and Fire Safety. We have events for folks that are 50 and older. This past weekend, we had a smoke alarm install at the Anchor Mobile Home Park in Southland Villa, where we installed over 120 smoke alarms. And then finally, we've been working with not only OSU, but the folks here in the City of Columbus to inspect off-campus housing at Ohio State. And we just achieved over 200 in the last few weeks of places that we inspected to make them safer. So with that, I believe Lieutenant Sawyer has a short PowerPoint presentation that he wants to go over.
Look, listen, learn, be aware. Fire can happen anywhere. The National Fire Protection Association states that 4 out of 5 U.S. fire deaths occur in the home. Look, listen, and learn how you can prevent deadly fires. The top 3 causes of home fires are 1. Cooking equipment, 2. Heating equipment, and 3. Electrical. Remember, test smoke alarms monthly. Change the battery yearly. Replace the alarm every 10 years. Install smoke alarms in every bedroom, outside every sleeping area, and on every level of your home, including the basement. Learn 2 ways out of every room. Have a qualified electrician inspect your electrical system every 10 years. Have a qualified electrician install AFCI breakers and receptacles. The CPSC estimates that 50% of electrical fires can be prevented with AFCIs. Extension cords cause an estimated 3,300 home fires a year. Never use them as permanent wiring. To learn more about fire prevention, visit esfi.org or visit the NFPA at nfpa.org/FPW.
President Harden, President Pro Tem, Councilmember Stenciano, Safety Chair, Councilmember Brown. It's an honor to be here today. Thank you for this Fire Prevention Week. Thank you for this resolution. I think this message, look, listen, and learn, is trying to teach families and communities to be proactive about their fire safety education, to listen to what we are telling you, to apply it, and to change your behavior. So on behalf of Fire Chief Kevin O'Connor, the members and women, the men and women of the Columbus Division of Fire, and myself, thank you again.
A few moments ago, you heard Chief Kennel mention that he thought he was the luckiest fire chief in Columbus Division of Fire. I'm going to have to disagree with you, Jim, if you're still here. I believe I'm the luckiest. I had a chance to work side by side with Teresa, as he has, but I also have had the opportunity to work side by side with this man standing right here, Lieutenant Dave Sawyer. Dave is a 38-year veteran with the Columbus Division of Fire. He has been a lieutenant with the Columbus Division of Fire 23 of those 38 years. He has spearheaded the efforts of our public outreach office the last 15 years. It's quite a testament to somebody who's trying to make this community a safer place to live and work. He is a member of our Honor Guard. He has been a paramedic with the Columbus Division of Fire. He has received 2 Distinguished Service Awards, a Fire Service Award of Merit, and I could go on and on and on. It's been an honor, David, to work next to you. Thank you for all the work that you've done to make this community safer, and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this will be Lieutenant Sawyer's last presentation before he retires with regards to Fire Prevention Week, which is why we heard that very, very eloquent response by Deputy Chief Walton. David, please take the podium. We have worked together many, many years, as he knows, and all the kind words that were expressed by Chief Walton were 100% accurate. No matter when I would call David, day or night, he would always respond. When it came to trying to educate people about fire response, David was always there. When I got in trouble about making comments about candles, David was always there to help me deal through it. David, undeniably, it's appreciated. And I would tend to agree with you. The fire division itself is full of wonderful people and heroes who do the job every single day, and you're certainly one of them. So congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's all I have, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. This week I'm hosting 2 public hearings titled Discovering a Litter-Free Columbus. The first one is tomorrow, Tuesday, October 2nd, from 6 to 7:30 at the Linden Community Recreation Center, 1254 Briarwood Avenue. We will have a presentation from Keep Columbus Beautiful, a panel discussion with representatives from the Columbus Division of Refuse, the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, SWACO, and local leaders, and the opportunity to provide public testimony. The local leaders from the north side include Desmond Chapman from the Linden Litter League and Melissa Tompkins from the Milo Grogan Area Commission. The second hearing this week is Thursday, October 4th from 6 to 7:30 at the Dodge Recreation Center at 667 Sullivan Avenue. This will be identical in format, but will include local leaders from the west side, including Lisa Boggs from the South Central Hilltop Block Watch and Bill Huffman from Homes on the Hill. Both of these hearings will be broadcast on CTV, so hopefully if you don't have the opportunity to make it out, you can watch it on that. And as always, please feel free to reach out to my office if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about this important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Page.
Thank you, President Harden. I do have two announcements this evening. President Pro Tem Stenziano and I will host our final Courthouse to the Community event tomorrow, Tuesday, October 2nd at 5:30. It will be at Gilly Recreation Center, which is located at 2100 Morse Road. And this is an opportunity for residents to ask court officials and other organizations any questions that you may have about legal services that are provided at no cost to our residents. And also, I will host our final eviction and housing workshop for the year this Thursday, October 4th at 4:30 p.m. Council has partnered with Next Gen Columbus and the Legal Aid Society to facilitate these workshops, and it will be held at Driving Park Library, 1422 East Livingston Avenue. And we hope you all can come out again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. President Pro Tem. All right. Councilmember Tyson.
Yes, I have one resolution this evening, and it is, I'm going to ask if Michelle Jones could come to the podium, please. And it's resolution 0291X-2018. It is to declare October 2018 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Columbus and to recognize the Columbus Cancer Clinic for their advocacy and their efforts to raise awareness regarding breast cancer in Columbus and Central Ohio. Whereas each year more than 200,000 American women are diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States. And whereas breast cancer is the most commonly reported cancer by women in the state of Ohio, regardless of race, accounting for 28% of the cancer diagnosed in women. And whereas the risk of developing cancer increases with age, with approximately 96% of the women who are diagnosed with breast cancer being age 40 and over. And whereas breast cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death among women, ranking just behind lung cancer, it should be noted that since 1989, the mortality rates have steadily declined in women, with the largest decrease in cancer rates occurring in younger women. And whereas there have been numerous studies which have shown that early detection saves lives and increases the options for treatment. And whereas breast cancer is more curable disease than it was 30 years ago due to increased awareness, improved treatment options, as well as improved mammography screenings, which helps detect breast cancer early. Whereas the Columbus Cancer Clinic, which is part of Life Care Alliance, was founded in 1921 by Mrs. Samuel Black with the assistance of two physicians, Dr. James Baldwin and Dr. Andre Karate, as Mrs. Black believed that the control of cancer was a civic responsibility. The Columbus Cancer Clinic provides low-cost or free head-to-toe cancer screenings and mammograms, cancer prevention and education. Whereas the Columbus Cancer Clinic encourages women to take steps to reduce breast cancer, thus helping them to get well. For women who are diagnosed with breast cancer, the Columbus Cancer Clinic provides information, emotional support, which guides them through each step of their experience, as well as day-to-day assistance, ultimately helping them to stay well. And whereas the Columbus Cancer Clinic is committed to promoting cancer prevention, early detection, year-round advocacy for those facing this disease, and partnering with community stakeholders to assure that quality cancer care and services are provided in our community. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus, this council does hereby recognize the importance of Breast Cancer Awareness Month and applauds the Columbus Cancer Clinic for their work at raising awareness regarding breast cancer in Columbus. I move for adoption.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you. Michelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the resolution. I want to introduce to you Kristen Brown. She is the director of the Columbus Cancer Clinic, and I think she can tell her story a whole lot better than I can. So, Kristen.
Sure. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you all for having us here. This is such an honor. And I just want to start off by saying the City of Columbus has been helping the Columbus Cancer Clinic financially since 2015. And that support has gone to help what we call our home care division. And so, as you had stated before, the Columbus Cancer Clinic has been around since 1921. We were the first freestanding cancer screening and prevention program in the country. We joined with Life Care Alliance in 2005, and the city has been helping through funding since 2015. Our programs wouldn't be what they are today without the support that we receive from the city, so thank you so very much. But we have in our home care division, that part of our program is strictly for clients who have been diagnosed with cancer. They are actively in treatment, and they are either at or below a certain threshold of the poverty guidelines. And what we're doing is, our goal is to help prevent barriers to care. And by providing them with the much needed services that the city is helping to fund, we're hoping to impact healthcare outcomes. And so by helping to eliminate problems with transportation, or medications, food, nutritional supplements, medical supplies, as well as wigs and scarves and prosthetics. These are all things that we're able to provide so those that are going through cancer treatments can focus on those treatments and, again, hopefully help to eliminate barriers to care. You mentioned our clinic. And so we do provide the free and the low-cost cancer screenings. We also do mammography screening and diagnostics. About a year ago, we were fortunate enough to have a fellowship-trained, board-certified radiologist that spends a half day with us once a week for a women's clinic. And as many women have experienced before, getting a screening mammogram and then getting that call back because there's something that was noticed or there's an abnormality that they want to take a further look at. And there's so many times what happens is those women get that call back and they blow it off and they don't want to go back for multiple reasons. Either insurance is an issue, or the insurance just doesn't pay for the diagnostic, or they now have to go to another facility to get that diagnostic. And there are barriers there to just going back for that follow-up. And by having that physician on site in our clinic, we have seen a tremendous increase in women coming back. And unfortunately, we were diagnosing more cancers because of that. I guess you could say unfortunately or fortunately, but what we're doing is we're able to get women into treatment sooner because they're coming back and we've got that radiologist there on site, able to do everything in the same day, where they can get a diagnostic and they can get their biopsy and get their results in a timely manner. We also provide interpretation services. We have a tremendous coordination of care program, and we provide transportation to really help eliminate those barriers. But again, it's with tremendous support from the city that helps us to continue to do that. We do have an event coming up November 8th that I would love to share with all of you. If you've not received your invitation yet, hopefully that will be coming out soon. But it is Thursday, November 8th at 6:30 p.m., and it's at Amelita Murillo Barn in Upper Arlington. It's called our Night of Hope and Support, and it benefits the Heather Pick Spirit Fund of the Columbus Cancer Clinic. Heather Pick was a tremendous supporter of our program, and this event was something that was incredibly near and dear to her heart. And so, thank you again, and hopefully we'll see some of you at our event.
Don't walk away, Director Brown. I have a resolution to hand you. But again, thank you for your leadership. And certainly, I think the key to something I want people to take away, and hope you'll give your phone number for anyone out there that needs a mammogram or any other cancer services, who they can contact so that they can receive these services. But again, and it's certainly, if you don't have the financial resources to be able to pay for those services, I know you offer free services or a reduced fee, which is so important for families. So could you please just share if there's anyone who needs to have any screenings for getting their mammograms or screenings, or if they are currently have been diagnosed with cancer and are going through a very difficult time, as you mentioned, some of those stressors, who they can contact?
Sure. Our main number is 614 263-5006. That gets directly to the main line of the Columbus Cancer Clinic. You can call that number, and that will get you to either our home care case manager or our schedulers to help schedule a cancer screening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Take care.
I want to take this opportunity to recognize Director Carla Williams-Scott. She's looking up like, what did I do? I want to recognize Director Scott. Last Tuesday, early morning, there was a tornado that came in the Eastmore, James Road, just a very Bexley, James Road, a tornado that came through our community. And certainly, I live in that neighborhood, and I woke up and I heard, looked outside, the winds were blowing and all the rain, and I'm like, what is going on? And realized that, our electric was out, et cetera. However, realized as the day progressed that it certainly was a tornado. And when I went back home that day, but before that, I want to also recognize that Michelle Santamo, who is the Eastmore Civic Association leader, I know she called my office 3 times that day, but when I went back home and drove through the neighborhood and saw the streets that certainly in my community, there were trees uprooted. But then when I drove over to, I think like Northampton, behind, James Road, the CVS, that to go to that neighborhood, it looked like a war zone. Those trees, these massive, massive trees that were blown over on cars, on houses, on, wires down, wires are still down. And certainly you realize that people don't have the resources to cut those huge trees down, that, what are you going to do? What's going to happen here? And so I know that Director Williams-Scott got on the phone. I know she worked with some other departments in the city, Recs and Parks and Public Service and other businesses to be able to help that community. So I want to personally say thank you. And if you could even share a few words, Director Williams-Scott, about the resources and for that community.
Sure, Councilmember Tyson, President Harden, and council members, thank you, and thank you for that. We did, my team and I, and members from the mayor's staff as well, and other departments. We actually went out to kind of assess what residents needed, and you saw the difference on one side of James Road where residents may have had the means. They had tree companies in the next day, and they were in removing the trees that had come down. And you're right, they're huge, 100-foot plus trees. And then we went across James Road to the area, Southampton, Mayfair, and I think it's Elberton, I think might be the other street, but just smaller homes, and where people, some were about 50% renters, 50% homeowners, and people that didn't have the resources. And so we really worked with our colleagues here, and I really want to shout out to Service for getting Rumpke out there for some additional pickup, and my colleagues in Recreation and Parks. They will actually be going out every day this week to pick up the tree limbs and any debris that if people could get it to their tree lawn, they will be out to, from October 1st through October 5th, and they said they would make several passes a day throughout the week. Rumpke was out Friday and Saturday, and then the regular day is tomorrow. And I think they have suspended some of the requirements that normally they had because of the size of these trees and the amount of the debris. It would be difficult for people to, to get into small bundles. One thing I would like to share that we found out over the weekend, and if people want to reach out to our friends at Franklin County Auditor's Office, the Auditor's Office was out there as well, and they have a program that they will work with residents to either reduce or suspend their property taxes while they're repairing the damage, and I think that could really also assist some of the residents that are out there. So we'll be going back out this week as well.
And I just want to say thank you for your leadership, and if you didn't go through and see it, I mean, you would not have believed that that happened, and certainly there weren't any sirens or anything. It happened so fast, and I'm just thankful that there were no lives lost, but there certainly is tremendous damage. So thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. I have one resolution this evening. I'd like to invite Mr. Cameron Mitchell and Stacy Connaughton to come to the podium. I have Resolution 0275X-2018, and it's to honor and recognize and congratulate Mr. Cameron Mitchell Restaurants on 25 years of success in the hospitality industry in our city. Started in 1993, Cameron Mitchell Restaurants has grown to 32 restaurants under 15 different concepts. Cameron Mitchell Restaurants also oversees the growth and the development of its sister company, the Rusty Bucket, which operates 23 locations in 6 states. Cameron Mitchell Restaurants has received numerous culinary and leadership, entrepreneur, community service, and Reader's Choice Awards. Most recently, Mr. Mitchell and Columbus State announced plans for a $33 million hospitality management and culinary arts space right on Cleveland Avenue. This facility will welcome folks into Columbus State and will help train the next generation of chefs in our city. First, can I get, do I have any comments from my colleagues? Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, President Hardin. And Cameron, I've known you a long, long time, and just really appreciate your leadership and this $33 million gateway into Columbus State will be pretty significant. So besides all the other wonderful things you've done in this community, and make sure that each of our palates have able to experience various types of food, we thank you for that. We thank you for hiring the individuals in this community and giving people opportunities to have a profession in your business. But again, as Council President Hart mentioned, that partnership with Columbus State will be a significant game changer in this community. And so just thank you for your ongoing leadership and your friendship.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn the podium over to you, Mr. Mitchell.
Okay, well, I have here with me my friend Stacy. Stacy and I, she was my very first person I hired to start with me in the company. We now have almost 5,000 associates, but
wow.
I'm 001 and she's 002, so I thought it was only fitting that she'd be up here with me. Anybody who knows me knows our love of the city, and this is my home and always has, always will be, and I really enjoyed the first few parts of this meeting, and I can only walk away feeling that Columbus is alive and well and healthy with all of you on council. And I appreciate all the extra effort and all the effort you all put and the city staffers here to help run this great city. And it's truly, I think it's a partnership, a great partnership, and we're thrilled. We're so grateful for Columbus for supporting us all these years. We couldn't have done what we did, and so we always look at it as a partnership, and we look forward to many, many more years of being here in Columbus and serving this wonderful city. So thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. We are certainly proud to have you here in Columbus providing jobs, and really you are our ambassador. When we go to other cities, you spread the word about our great city, and so we're very, very grateful. I have a motion for adoption. Please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Hardin.
Adopted.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
And I hope everyone wore their finest. We have been joined from folks out of town from C-SPAN. So we are all on C-SPAN this evening. C-SPAN is in our city. It's part of a ongoing series going around the country, talking to folks around. I want to invite Mr. Bacon to come forward with C-SPAN to talk about the conversations that C-SPAN has been having with folks all around the country. And welcome to Columbus, and Mr. Bacon.
Yes, thank you so much, President Hardin, council members. C-SPAN is so excited to be here in Columbus as part of our 50 Capitals tour. So we have been traveling around the country in our C-SPAN bus. If you didn't see it earlier this evening, we were parked right behind City Council. But the C-SPAN bus has been traveling around the country all year for the last 12 months on a 14-month total tour where we're going to every single state capital and talking to everyone in those cities. In those capitals, we on board the bus actually have a studio that we do live interviews on our morning program, the Washington Journal, which is our signature call-in program that we've had for over 35 years, where folks from around the country every single day, 365 days a year, can talk to their local and state and mostly their federal elected officials about the issues that they really care about. So on the tour, this is our 43rd stop. We will be in New England for the rest of the tour, closing it out later this month. But we had to come, obviously, right here to Columbus. Tomorrow, we will be having the C-SPAN bus parked right over at the State House, right on High Street, and we will be interviewing your State Senate President, Larry Oboff. He will be on from 8 to 8:30 on C-SPAN, where folks from Columbus, if they are watching, can call in and ask him whatever's on their mind. After that, we will actually open up the bus that has interactive tablets, a selfie station, and all sorts of other fun stuff for anyone who is interested to come out and check out the bus. Council member Stinziano was out there earlier today, and on top of inviting folks to come see the bus, but we also want them to participate. We have interview questions that we do every year. We've been asking people what is the most important issue going on in their states, which we think is very important. And then we are also asking about how they would like to see this midterm election go. C-SPAN is a public service from the cable industry. That's another thing that we tell people. A lot of people think that C-SPAN, we're in D.C., we have 3 channels, we cover the House, the Senate, the President, the Supreme Court, and we try to be as nonpartisan and as fair as possible, showing events from the very beginning to the very end, and sometimes beyond. Showing it uncut, unedited, a true, as close as we can, a true look at what is happening in your nation's capital. And so we do that, and a lot of people think that because we do it so well in such a nonpartisan way, that the government must be paying for us. But C-SPAN stands for the Cable Satellite Public Affairs Network, and we are so happy to work with local cable providers all over the country, including here in Columbus. We work with Spectrum. So it's without our cable partnership, we could not bring you C-SPAN. And without C-SPAN, we would not be able to show you what is going on in your government. So we are very happy to be here. We're excited to have also visited this week already today. We've gone to a couple of your middle schools here, so at Bexley Middle School as well as Jones Middle School. And tomorrow, if you miss the bus of the Capitol, from 10:30 to 11:30, we will actually also be at Capital University from 1 to 3. And we invite, obviously, the council members here to come out and visit with us, but also anyone who is interested in seeing what C-SPAN is doing and sharing their opinions with the rest of the country about what is important in this city. On a personal note, I have a personal connection to Columbus. My dad was actually born here in Mount Carmel before moving back to Georgia and then on into the military to serve 26 years in the Air Force. So this is not my home, but the home city of my father. So really excited to be here.
Well, we'll claim you too. Welcome back.
Thanks. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. Are there any comments by elected officials, city attorney, city auditor, city treasurer? Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent action portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may we now have a motion to waive reading of the title of the 30-day legislation by the city clerk? Please call the row.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Finance Committee ordinances 2305 and 2625-2018, Recreation and Parks Committee Resolution 249X-2018, and Ordinance 2452-2018, Public Safety Committee Ordinance 2558-2018, Public Service and Transportation Committee Ordinances 2513 and 2572-2018, Administration Committee Ordinance 2579-2018, Economic Development and Small Business Committee Resolution 287X-2018, Public Utilities Committee Ordinances 2369, 2551, 2555, 2559, 2563, and 2575-2018, Zoning Committee Ordinances 2655 and 2656-2018.
Seeing no speakers on the first reading agenda, the following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read those ordinance numbers into the record?
Resolutions of expression 292X, 284, and 285X-2018. Finance Committee ordinances 2306, 2392, 2418, 2456, 2541, 2586, 2598, and 2609-2018. Recreation and Parks Committee ordinance 2462-2018. Public Safety Committee ordinance 2368-2018. Public Service and Transportation Committee ordinances 2149, 2382, 2518, 2532, and 2564-2018. Housing Committee ordinances 2488, 2489, 2490, 2491, 2521, 2522, 2523, 2524, 2525, 2526, 2590, 2591, 2592, 2593, 2594, 2640, 2641, 2642, 2643, 2644, 2645, and 2646-2018. Public Utilities Committee ordinances 2367, 2421, 2443, 2621-2018. Health and Human Services Committee ordinances 2343, 2578, and 2623-2018. Appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0255, 256, 257, 258, 259, 260, 261, 262, 263, 264, 265, 266, 267, 268, 269, 270, 271, 272, 273-2018.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have one speaker on the consent agenda. It's Mr. Nathaniel Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins, welcome to council. Mr. Wilkins is speaking on ordinance 2524-2018. Mr. Wilkins, welcome back to council.
1612 Arlington Avenue, Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins, the chairman of the vacant amendment property in North Linden there. I'm going to give you 4 reasons why I'm against this. 1443 Genesee Avenue. As I've been in my house since 2007, 1443 Genesee Avenue was occupied by a young, older gentleman at the time before he had medical problems. At this time, unfortunately, the house that sits vacant in abandonment before the city took it over. Even though it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, the reason why I'm against this is for several reasons. When the house that came vacant in abandonment, the owner had decided to move out of state at the time. It had sat vacant in abandonment for a long time before the city had took it. Today, it still sits a for sale sign on Genesee Avenue. There's other property and parcels on that street that sit vacant in abandonment and not been idolized and been fixed and rehabbed. Today, we are standing with this property on Genesee Avenue, 1443 Genesee Avenue. The reason why I'm against this, I don't want any investor to come in, fix it up, and to be priced too high or to be rent too high. This community has a high stencil of vacant property, rental property, but not owner-occupied property in Linden or South Linden. The reason why I'm against this is because it doesn't give residents the opportunity to work with any contractors in this community or any stakeholders. You know, only reason why I'm against this is because people like myself want the opportunity to put some touches into these homes, architect and design. And unfortunately, some of these homes have criteria effects that other houses don't have. So again, just like to have more clarification, who's going to get this and what will be done. But I'm against it for not to be a rental property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Just wanted to highlight really an ongoing series that the dispatch is doing that quoted Mr. Wilkins and his work in Linden as it pertains to housing and his fight for a mixed income, inclusive neighborhood that works with neighbors. And I just want to recognize you for your work. I'd ask that the department to continue to follow up with Mr. Wilkins and ask that we all join me in wishing Mr. Wilkins a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Wilkins. Are there any questions or comments? Oh, yes, please. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion for approval of these items designated as consent? Please call the row.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
The consent agenda is passed. We will now proceed with the second reading of 30-day and tabled emergency legislation. The first committee to come before council is the Recreation and Parks Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Brown, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. Tonight in Recreation and Parks, we have 2673-2018 to authorize the appropriation of $5,300,000 to the Special Income Tax Fund 4430, to authorize the city auditor to transfer $5,300,000 between the Special Income Tax Fund 4430 and the Recreation and Parks Voted Bond Fund 7702, to authorize the Director of the Recreation and Parks Department to execute those documents as approved by the Department of Law Real Estate Division, necessary to purchase the real property located at 2425 West Case Road from the state of Ohio, to authorize the expenditure of up to $5,300,000 from the Recreation and Parks Voted Bond Fund 7702, and to declare an emergency. This is an exciting ordinance that represents a commitment by the city to preserving 57 acres of green space in northwest Columbus to be used as a park. The site, colloquially known as the Sheep Farm, is being purchased from the Ohio State University. And opportunities to purchase such a large piece of undeveloped land do not come along often. I really want to give thanks to the tremendous work of Director Collins and his staff, including Deputy Director Paul Rakowski, who's here, that the city was able to move quickly to take advantage of this opportunity. I also want to thank the residents of Northwest Columbus for their advocacy and vision. Since it was first announced that Ohio State would be selling the site, they have been a consistent presence at all of City Council's public meetings, and sometimes having individual meetings with each of us where they have shared their vision for the property. However, the purchase of the property is only the beginning of the story, and a community meeting will be held this Wednesday at 6 p.m. at Carriage Place Community Center to discuss further development. It's important to emphasize that the Recreation and Parks Department is the sole entity entered into this purchase agreement, and any future plans will be driven by the City of Columbus and its ongoing commitment to preserving the land as green space and providing access to increased recreation opportunities for Columbus residents. I know there will be a robust discussion about this, and I believe we have 3 people to start that discussion off. We have 3 speaker slips that have signed up for the ordinance tonight. Ellen Carroll Jones, Morris Beja, and Larry Miller. So first, Miss Ellen Carroll Jones, and then again, Mr. Beja and Mr. Miller will be after him.
Thank you so much.
I ask you to approve the purchase of the Ohio State University sheep facility on West Case Road as a large community park, and we hope the future site of a community center and library for the residents of Northwest Columbus. The Northwest Civic Association supports the redevelopment of the Ohio State University sheep farm site as a large community park, featuring a community center that fulfills the educational, recreational, and assembly needs of Northwest Columbus residents, both today and in years to come. When Mayor Ginsburg spoke to residents, he said, "We hear your concerns regarding development, particularly regarding the sheep farm." He said this on July 19th. "We are interested in gaining access to parkland, and we're working on a proposal that makes sense to the city and our residents." We were, of course, elated. The Columbus Recreation and Parks Department in its 2014 master plan concluded that North Columbus is last or next to last among 5 study areas in all major recreation and park resource metrics, and recommended an additional 170 acres of community parks. And I just want to emphasize that a community park is 25 plus acres, not 8. We have made clear to the mayor, to every member of the city council, to Columbus Parks and Recreation, to Age Friendly Columbus, to the Columbus Metropolitan Libraries, to the Columbus Foundation and the Columbus Landmarks Foundation, that our area of Northwest Columbus is in desperate need of parkland, especially large community parks, as well as amenities that other parts of the city of Columbus and all the adjoining suburbs have. A community center that serves the diverse needs of all the area's residents, educational facilities such as libraries that are age appropriate for the young, for the elderly, and for families. We need a library that serves all of our diverse residents, students at Centennial High School or first or second generation from over 40 countries. We need after-school programs that link early readers at Daniel Wright Elementary School with senior volunteers. We need English as a second language programs for our many immigrant families. It's a large immigrant community in Northwest Columbus. And in this large community park, we need both casual and intense outdoor recreational facilities that are also age appropriate for the young, for the elderly, and for families. Examples include parkland and natural conservation areas such as wetlands and prairie restoration, gardens, including community gardens, especially for immigrant families and families in apartments, multi-use paths, playgrounds, a swimming pool, and playing fields. And what we do not need, and most certainly do not want, is a 34-acre sports complex that Upper Arlington wants to build in that area, with UA residents given priority as users on what we had been led to believe by every official in the city of Columbus would be a 57.7-acre park for Northwest Columbus residents. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Mr. Beja? And I forgot to remind Ms. Jones of 3 minutes. Thank you for sticking to it. Mr. Beja, you have 3 minutes.
The citizens of Columbus were overjoyed to hear of the plan to purchase the OSU sheep farm for the purpose of creating a park, a much-needed park in that area of the city. They will not be happy to discover that that park may, in fact, be mostly turned over to Upper Arlington and Dublin, and that most of it would not really be a park, but instead a sports complex. It's fully clear why the planners in Upper Arlington have made their proposal, as they themselves state in their announcement of September 20th, quote, "Many residents have expressed concern about the over-programming of sports activities and a desire for the parks to retain the neighborhood feel and to offer more passive and natural recreational activities." In other words, what the residents of Upper Arlington don't want, not in their backyards, will be foisted on the residents of North Columbus. A grassroots effort by a number of residents has worked for, pleaded for, and yes, fought for at least a year and a half to have the sheep farm converted into a genuine natural park. Not playing fields, and certainly not for a so-called natural park of a mere 8 acres out of 57, as the Upper Arlington Plan announcement calls for. We also pleaded to have the area include a community center and/or a library, but we were told that the land couldn't be built on, but would be a green area in perpetuity. The Upper Arlington announcement calls for, quote, 4 ball diamonds, 2 full-sized sports fields, and 6 smaller sports fields. Green? The green of baseball fields, soccer fields, football fields, with accompanying large parking lots and, no doubt, night lights? Of course, in perpetuity. The citizens of Columbus don't object to an equitable form of cooperation with Upper Arlington and Dublin, but not to a sellout. Please make sure that Northwest Columbus gets the large community park, the genuine park that it needs and deserves. Thanks for hearing me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Beja. And finally, in support of the ordinance, Mr. Larry Miller. And again, you have 3 minutes, Mr. Miller. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to address City Council. The previous speakers have made most of the points that I was going to make in my presentation, so I'll try and maybe add to what they've talked about already. The discussions regarding the what we call the historic OSU sheep farm, to give it a title, actually began on May 16th with involving community residents. There was some notices in the Columbus Dispatch about OSU giving up that property. But there have been ongoing discussions with the community, the city government, and other agencies in the area. To reiterate, I think some of the things that was said previously, just to emphasize their importance, is this 57-acre tract of land and how it's to be used, preserving green space. If you go to Google Earth and zoom down in this area, there's very little. This one little patch sticks out amongst everything else. We did a survey of the neighborhood in our early discussions and asking them what they wanted. So it's not people who are here tonight what our interests are, although we share those interests, but what the community wanted. And they came back with this prioritized list. A walking and riding path that would allow students in the adjacent neighborhoods to have access to the right elementary school. Seems pretty reasonable. Retaining the farmhouse that's there currently to repurpose it as a community center. So we're not asking for a new building, just a repurposed building. The public library has already been mentioned, but again, it's important for the reasons that were stated previously. To allow a space for community gardens and for students to learn how to grow vegetables, where they come from, some of those basic skills, and to allow residents, some of our immigrants who are used to cultivating their own food, to have the garden to table opportunity that they deserve. There's also a number of buildings that are present already on the site that can be repurposed for other purposes, for indoor sports and other needs, equipment storage, etc. And then one last thing was a connection of a bike path from this park to the Olentangy River Road. And I'm not sure if that's been brought up before, but certainly something that was of interest to the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I would like to again emphasize, thank you for being here to start the conversation. The sort of robust conversation to focus on this topic is Wednesday, October 3rd at Carriage Place Community Center, and all of that feedback will also be welcomed there in addition to in these chambers. the Recreation and Parks Department, as one of the speakers said, collaboration is welcome, but we want it to be the right kind of collaboration. And that's the nature of the conversations that I have had. I don't know if there are any other members of council that want to add anything. You've had a lot of folks on council advocating for this ordinance to come to the floor for us to be able to pass tonight. So thank you to my colleagues for that. And unless Director Rakowski, you want to add anything?
President Harden, Chair Brown, members of council, just to reiterate what you've already said, this ordinance does two things. It ordains the purchase contract that was signed, that we were required to sign per the state bill that passed, and it allows us, it sets up the necessary funds to purchase this from Ohio State. Everything that you, or folks that have heard about what Arlington might have on a website, that reflects their interests in a possible collaboration. It doesn't necessarily reflect our interests. It reflects theirs, and if they were going to put money into purchasing a piece of this property, they should have. It's only fair that they would have an ability to express their interests to their own public, but that doesn't mean that necessarily reflects all of our interests. And I would, just to reiterate, we have heard the advocates for the purchase of this sheep farm. We wouldn't have this ordinance in front of City Council tonight if we hadn't heard. And what we heard more than anything else is, don't let that high-density housing development that we saw pictures of be built. Reserve this as open space and reserve it as green space. So the first step in this process is to do exactly that, which is to take $5.2 million of money we did not have budgeted in our budget and set it aside to try and do the right thing and ensure that this remains a green space. Now we start with another part of the process with hopefully a really well-attended public meeting at Carriage Place at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. That's 4900 Sawmill Road. Come out, give us your input so that we can hear other folks' input on all of this, and then we'll move forward from that point. But there is nothing else signed. There's no other done deals associated with this. We're just asking your help in coming to the first part of this process, and then we have a whole lot of other conversations and work as we move forward on all of this.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any questions from my colleagues? Councilmember Stinziano.
Thank you, Chair. And just to reiterate, I don't know if you want to answer it or the department, but before any other action would occur, it would have to come before this body after this ordinance is passed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
President Harden, Chair Brown, President Pro Tem Stinziano, absolutely. Any other sale of any piece of this to another entity would have to come in front of City Council. And, and just to add to that, one of the things that is our interest in any deal would be deed restrictions on anything that we sold that would always, in perpetuity, remain green space, open space, or in the case of Dublin schools with the preliminary discussions, it would eventually become a school if it wasn't going to be a green space. So yes, absolutely, we'll be back in front of council if that's the decision that's made moving forward.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Director. Seeing no other questions, I move for passage.
Second. Please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stinziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
That's all I have, Council President.
Thank you, Chair Brown. The next committee to come before council. The next committee to come before council is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, President Harden. Tonight I have ordinance number 2407, 2018, to authorize the city's Chief Innovation Officer on behalf of the Department of Public Service to enter into a contract modification with Clean Fuels Ohio for the purpose of distributing rebate funds in connection with the Smart Columbus Multi-Unit Dwelling Electric Vehicle Charging Rebate Program, to authorize the expenditure of up to $275,000 for this program from the Smart City Private Grant Fund, and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the modifications of a service contract with Clean Fuels Ohio to add additional funds in the amount of $275,000 in the multi-unit dwelling electric vehicle charging rebate program. Previously, ordinance number 1193-2017 authorized the appropriation of $3,321,328 within the Smart City Private Grant Fund to support the implementation of the Smart Columbus Electrification Plan as part of the Vulcan Grant. $172,000 of that was budgeted within that plan to pay for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations in multi-unit dwelling areas, known as MUD Electric Vehicle Charging Rebate Program. This $275,000 is in addition to those funds. And now I'd like to ask Jody Baer, Deputy Program Manager for Smart Columbus, to come forward and speak about this particular ordinance.
Thank you, Chairman Remy. President Hardin, Chairman Remy, and members of council, we're pleased to bring forward this piece of legislation that would allow us to continue an effective electric vehicle charging incentive program. This program utilizes the Paul G. Allen Smart City Grant Funds, and the spirit of the initiative is to encourage developers to install electric vehicle charging stations in multi-unit dwelling developments. We encourage this by providing financial incentives to help cover the cost of charging ports and installation. We know from our research that most of electric vehicle charging happens at home, and we want to ensure charging is available at multi-unit homes such as apartments and condos. The legislation authorizes the Chief Innovation Officer to enter into contract with Clean Fuels Ohio so they can continue to manage the incentive program in the amount of $275,000 on behalf of Smart Columbus. The incentives are given on a first-come, first-served basis, and developers are eligible to apply for up to $25,000 per property. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Thank you very much, Ms. Baer. Appreciate it. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Hardin.
Passed. And that's all I have this evening in Public Service and Transportation.
Thank you, Chair Remy. It is now 6:30, so can I get, and we need to move to our, looks like a short zoning meeting. So may I get a motion to recess? Please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Hardin.
Council meeting is recessed, and we'll can go straight into. We will have a zoning meeting very shortly. Regular meeting number 50 will now come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Hardin.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? We will now go to the zoning meeting. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Hardin.
We will now go to the zoning meeting. Councilmember Tyson chairs this committee. All members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Before beginning the zoning agenda, I'll briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents, 3 opponents, and we ask that they limit their remarks to 3 minutes on each side, and we provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. On the advice of the City Attorney's Office, we ask that anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against any council variance, including staff, please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will. Thank you. The first ordinance is 2577-2018 to rezone 1980 West Case Road, being 41.79 acres located on the north side of West Case Road, 6,650 feet east of Sawmill Road from R Rural District to M2 Manufacturing District. The applicant is
The Ohio State University Physical Planning and Real Estate, care of Attorney Jeffrey L. Brown. The proposed use is an airport facility. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Northwest Civic Association's is approval, 9-1. And if there are, well, I guess staff wants to give a report on this one, no? If there's no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. The next ordinance and the final ordinance in zoning is ordinance number 2358-2018 to rezone 3467 Trayview Road, being 5.5 acres located on the south side of Trayview Road, 1,1300 feet west of McKinley Avenue, from R Rural District to CPD Commercial Plan Development District. The applicant is Preferred Living and care of Attorney David Hodge. Proposed use is a commercial development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and West Iota's Commission's recommendation is approval at 5-4. I will first ask for, because we have a speaker slip, I'm going to ask for a staff presentation.
Good evening. The requested CPD district is part of a plan that started in 2016. This piece, Planning Division had encouraged the applicant to annex it and incorporate it into their existing CPD district for a mixed-use development that meets the land use requirements of the Trayview Roberts area plan. The site is currently zoned R Rural District as a result from recent annexation into the city of Columbus, and this proposed piece will fill in with recently approved Ordinance 3116-2017. The proposal includes appropriate use restrictions, supplemental development standards, and variances to reduce setbacks and to permit parking spaces, driveways, and maneuvering over internal parcel lines consistent with the existing CPD district. The proposed commercial development, as I said, is consistent with the land use recommendations of the Trayview Roberts area plan and the adjacent CPD district. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Pine? Seeing none, I will first ask for our speakers and ask for a presentation from the applicant or representative of the applicant. Attorney Hodge. Good evening.
President Harden, Chair Tyson, members of council, my name is David Hodge. I'm an attorney with the law firm Underhill & Hodge at 8000 Walton Parkway, Suite 260, New Albany, 43054, the attorney for the applicant, Preferred Living. The rezoning before you this evening is Preferred Living's fulfillment of a commitment that they made to the city when we were zoning the balance of the site, which was before council at the end of 2017. Staff had a very similar image. It's up on your screen. This is actually the inverse of that image, but what you see here is everything that was rezoned at the end of 2017. The southern and the eastern portions were zoned into a multifamily residential classification. This purple color was zoned into a CPD, Commercial Planned Development District classification, and the white area we couldn't zone at the time because it was not yet in the city of Columbus. We have since that time annexed it into the city and filed this rezoning to fulfill the commitment. The rezoning before you is precisely what was approved at the end of 2017 in every way: the density, the height, and most importantly, the urban commercial overlay standards, which are written into the text. This is a little bit of a bubble plan, and it might be a little hard to read, but this portion here is the portion that we're talking about, and it's the CPD portion. What the urban commercial overlay does is it moves buildings out to the edge of the right-of-way to frame the right-of-way so that you don't see a bunch of parking and drive aisles between the road and the building, and it's what the UCO asks us to do. And the reason we did that here is because in the discussions with the city planning staff, as we were master planning this part of town, it's what they asked us to do, and it's also what the Trayview Roberts area plan asks for us to do in this San Margarita sub-area. So We believe this is simply a fulfillment of a prior commitment to bring this property in. Another, I think, very important aspect of this, and you'll see this in the legislation before you this evening, I'm sure each of you know that at some point in the future, the Wagenbrenner Company is going to come forward with a development to the north and east of this property. No one yet quite knows exactly what all that development's going to entail, but I believe it's going to have some multifamily associated with it, some single-family residential, and some office. There has been obviously considerable development pressure in this part of town, and the West Scioto Area Commission has been very interested in seeing the developer here complete a traffic impact study to assess and commit to traffic impact mitigation. What Preferred Living has done here is come to an agreement with the Wagenbrenner Company. There are letters in your ordinance that there will be a joint traffic impact study through the use of traffic engineers and through work with your City Public Service Department traffic division. So we have that commitment in here, and that is absolutely going to happen to make sure that infrastructure improvements occur to the roadway system to mitigate impacts of development in this area. That was a lot in a little bit of time. I'll stop talking now, and I'll do my best to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Hodge. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one speaker who is Ms. Carla Liepert, and she is against this ordinance. Please come to the podium, state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Carla J. Leppert, Joe Leppert to everybody else. My address is 3373 Littler Lane, and I live in Scioto Woods, and I'm also a commissioner with the West Scioto Area Commission. I'm also a member of the zoning committee, and I hope you don't mind if I read most of this. I'm here tonight to express our opposition to the rezoning of this parcel as it is currently proposed. The parcel is part of a larger area which would negatively impact existing neighborhoods. Our main reasons for opposing this rezoning are, 1, a thorough traffic study is needed for the entire Treview, McKinley, Dublin Road area, extending west on Treview Road to Hilliard, Rome Road. This study should include plans to incorporate sidewalks, bike paths, additional traffic lanes on Treview, and be completed prior to this entire project. That's the plan. Density and height of the entire project does not fit with surrounding residential areas. 1- and 2-story area buildings are the norm. Big concerns are that additional development is going into that intersection before the roads are improved. This is compounded by the Metro Park and Wagenbrenner development. There was discussion at the zoning committee level about reducing the height of the buildings to 35 feet to make the CPD a transitional stage into the mostly 2-story neighborhoods next to it. The commission expects significant growth in the next few years, and the Treview McKinley project is a gateway, which should be an example of good design for future developments to follow. West Scioto Area Commission is not against growth. We embrace it. However, poorly planned expansion can damage existing neighborhoods and set the tone for the future. We have only been an area commission for a year and a half and are still learning how to evaluate and monitor complex zoning issues. The vote was close. The application for the rezoning of this area along Treview Road to include the commercial planning district, the apartments behind it, were on another application. Please do not rush into approving this large development project until a thorough examination of these issues have been conducted. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't need to walk away. No. You don't have to walk. You can give us your. So, you said you are a member, Ms. Leppert, you come back. You said you're a member of the area, of the West Scioto Civic Area Commission, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so you had a vote of 5-4.
Yes, it was very contentious.
Okay.
And people are upset that they voted the way they did because some of them had misunderstandings. Like I said, we've only been in existence a year and a half. This is a big project.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Well, I wanted to ask that question. So, in your issues, because the applicant has an opportunity to come back and to,
Rebut.
based upon your comments, right? We'll just be able to share information or share the applicant's thoughts based upon your information. And so you're concerned about, one, the traffic, again, and I think, because you mentioned traffic.
Yeah,
And
we would
with
like, we have requested a traffic study for the whole corridor, and we haven't been able to get much going with that.
Okay, so I think they will come back and address that. I know that Attorney Hodge just discussed previously about the commitment for a traffic plan, and your thoughts are you'd want to have it before, but they've made that commitment to work with Wagon Burner for this plan. And I think we will also be able to hear back from staff in regards to this, to traffic, the traffic issue. They can address that also. And then sidewalks and bike paths, to make sure I heard everything you were saying. And again, density and height. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So, one, I'm going to allow our staff to comment regarding some of her comments, and then I'll bring Attorney Hodge back up.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Tyson, in regards to the collaborative traffic impact study, that is something that is in progress and will be going on for quite a while here in the coming months. It's going to be an expanded area beyond to include both the areas influenced by this application and the proposed Wagon Burner application at the just to the east of this site. So that, and there is the scope of that may not extend exactly to where the speaker had requested, but there will be numerous off-site intersections that will be studied as a part of this to identify both whether there's any background improvements needed at these intersections or any developer-related commitments that are needed. And we'll be exploring some other ideas related to ways to mitigate that if there are background needs out there. So that's something that will be in progress, and nothing will happen, no building of anything will happen on the commercial area of this site until that traffic study is reviewed and approved by the, it will be eventually 3 jurisdictions that will need to take a look at that.
Thank you. Councilman Stenziano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So how is that collaborative nature in the study being communicated to the Area Commission? Because I've been out there, I know they've been very frustrated. I know a number of us have kind of worked to advocate on their behalf for that. How are we communicating to that commission that this traffic study is in response to what they've asked for? And there just seems to continue to be confusion of the city's commitment and developers' commitment towards that goal.
I guess I don't know exactly the best means to communicate that, but I do know there have been requests that the Department of Public Service has requested funds for another expanded area of study, and I think that there was that's a pending request, I believe, that was submitted by other folks in public service. So that I guess I guess I could say the concerns have been heard, and there have been steps to look into this corridor further, but there has not, I don't believe there's been funding identified for further study beyond what this effort will be, what effort will be occurring with this application.
So I'm going to reiterate. So how is that being communicated to the Area Commission?
I don't know. I mean, I just.
Councilmember Stenziano, I would think that the neighborhood liaisons for that area commission would be the best source of getting the word out as to what steps were being taken and what aspects of the traffic study would be reviewed for this part of the city.
Thank you, Councilman Centeno. Attorney Hodge? Is your question to the Attorney Hodge or to the staff?
Staff.
Okay. Thank you. Come on up, Attorney Hodge. Councilmember Brown, Mitchell Brown has a question for the staff.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Pine, are we referencing sidewalks and bike paths in this component of the other aspects of this traffic study? Is that part of the discussion or not?
As far as sidewalks and bike paths, that would be a standard requirement that the Department of Public Service would have with any development. Generally, that's a requirement for any street frontage. So when a site development plan would come in for review, that would be a standard requirement. That is not something that's specifically addressed in the traffic impact study or the development text, as I believe.
Well, to go to my colleague's comments from Michael Stenziano, is that there still seems to be some lack of clarity on the subject matter, people understanding that that is going to be part of the evaluation process?
I mean, I believe that's just part of what, I mean, that's the standard frontage requirement for any development in the city of Columbus.
No, I understand that, but apparently the community still doesn't quite get that. So there's a need for additional clarity, I would think, on the subject matter.
So what we'll do, and Councilman Brown, I'm going to let certainly Attorney Hodge come back to the podium and share based upon her comments. He gets an opportunity to really comment on the areas that she just mentioned: traffic, sidewalks, bike paths, et cetera, and density, and that there's still some issue around communications with the area commission and or civic associations. Then we would really need to make sure that that communication takes place based upon what we're hearing this evening. So, Attorney Hodge, the floor is yours.
Sure, and I'll try to be relatively brief. Back when we started this rezoning initially, the West Scioto Area Commission had not yet formed, but we knew that they were in their formation process. We waited, actually, until they were officially formed and organized before we filed this portion of the application that came before council at the end of last year. And at that time, we worked very hard with the commission to deliver a project that was both consistent with city planning's vision for the property and something that could earn their support. I think the characterization that it was contentious is absolutely accurate. It's not been simple, though both with the 2017 rezoning and with this one, we did ultimately earn a split vote of support from the West Scioto Area Commission. And in terms of infrastructure improvements, initially there was a commitment that a traffic impact study be concluded, reviewed, and approved before any type of permit could be pulled for this portion of the property. As this one came into the mix, the target changed a little bit. When we initially started that process, it was our assumption that we would have the same obligation as we did with the last one, although that's not the case. We were encouraged and volunteered to reach out to the Wagenbrenner Company and have since then committed to do this joint traffic impact study with them, which is just the right way to do it, because that will be able to take into account the zoning that's happening here, the development that's anticipated here, and have an actual rational basis for those facts and data to go into with what Wagenbrenner is going to do to go into what's necessary in the infrastructure. As Mr. Bleckschmidt alluded, anytime you come in with a project like this, you're working with the Public Service Department, and the frontage of the property is given to the city. Same is true here. So there is significant dedication of right-of-way both along McKinley Avenue to the east and along Trayview Road to the north. In terms of what ultimately happens there, whether it's a trail or a sidewalk, and what the width of that is, I think the jury's out on that. That's going to be something that comes out of this ultimate review with this traffic impact study. And it's been my experience that the Public Service Department in the city is a pretty powerful department, and they can hold up the building permit right up till the very end they are among the last agencies to sign off. And so if the facts here warrant a trail extension along McKinley to the east to get folks into the park system that's going to go on the Wagonbrenner property, then that's what's warranted and that's what will happen. Same is true along the north side of Trayview. But some of this the jury's out on a little bit, but this process continues beyond the city's approval. But back to the zoning that we're here on tonight. This is absolutely, from our perspective, the fulfillment of a commitment that we made back in 2016, 2017, and the zoning before you is exactly the zoning that was before you at the end of 2017 in every way. We changed the acreages, we changed the site plan so that we can accurately show the property, and we changed just some very basic things like that. But in terms of the development itself, the urban commercial overlay, the height, all of that stuff, it is identical to what was approved at the end of 2017.
Any questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, and it may just mean that the area commission and the civic area commission, maybe that we just have to share more information about the process with the commissioners so that they feel more comfortable as to the process. And if there are no other questions or comments, I move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Ordinance passed.
Thank you. That's all I have in zoning this evening.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
We stand adjourned. We will resume regular meeting number 49 momentarily. Can I get a motion to reconvene meeting number 49? Please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Meeting number 49 is reconvened. The next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee. Councilmember Stenziano, President Pro Tem Stenziano is chair. The floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. Tonight in Public Utilities, bring forward Ordinance 2448-2018 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to renew the professional engineering services agreement with MS Consultants Incorporated for the Watershed Miscellaneous Improvements Hoover Dam Part 1 project for the Division of Water, to authorize a transfer and expenditure up to $1,487,600 within the Water General Obligations Bond Fund, and to authorize an amendment to the 2018 capital improvements budget. This project will be executed in 3 phases: preliminary design, detailed design, and construction. The primary objective of this phase is to conduct detailed design services and develop construction documents that will allow for construction of the proposed improvements to extend the life of Hoover Dam, which, as we all know, remains a critical part of the city's utilities. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Next ordinance, 2457-2018, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter a construction contract with Cocosine Industrial Incorporated for the O'Shaughnessy Dam 2018 Spillway Erosion Rehabilitation Project in an amount up to $3,807,600 to provide for payment of prevailing wage service to the Department of Public Service in an amount up to $2,000, to authorize a transfer and expenditure of up to $3,809,600 within the Water General Obligation Bonds Fund for the Division of Water, to authorize an amendment of the 2018 capital improvement budget and to declare an emergency. This project will provide repairs for the O'Shaughnessy Dam spillway, specifically to correct erosion and other rehabilitation efforts that were deemed necessary. These improvements include replacing outdated equipment, installing erosion protection downstream of the dam, and other necessary repairs. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
That's all we have in Public Utilities.
Thank you, Chair Stenziano. The next committee to come before council is the Health and Human Service Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Tyson. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have ordinance number 1698-2018 to authorize the appropriation of $374.40 the unappropriated balance of the General Government Grant Fund to the Health Department for the 2018 HOPA program and to declare an emergency. The HOPA program provides for the implementation of long-term comprehensive strategies for meeting the housing needs of low-income persons with HIV and AIDS and their families. Eligible activities include providing housing information services, resource identification, acquisition, rehabilitation, conversion, lease, and repair of facilities to provide housing and services new construction of housing units, project or tenant-based rental assistance, short-term rent, mortgage and utility payments, and supportive services, technical assistance, and administrative support. Each year, about 100 households of low-income and persons living with HIV in Central Ohio provide the long-term or short-term housing. If you know of anyone that will be in need of these services, please contact Audrey Regan at 614-645-6790. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Please call the row.
Brown, Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The final ordinance on my committee this evening is ordinance number 2627-2018 to authorize and direct the Board of Health to accept a grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for the Healthy Start Grant Program in the amount of $450,000, to authorize the appropriation of $450,000 from the unappropriated balance of the Health Department's grants fund and to declare emergency. The Healthy Start Grant Program enables Columbus Public Health to conduct home visiting coordination program in Franklin County, focusing primarily on perinatal and infant clients and their families. Healthy Start is funded to serve 800 clients, of which 400 are pregnant and 400 parenting women and their infants up to age 2 who reside in Franklin County. Clients received education on pregnancy, women's health, infant health, infant growth, development, safety, nutrition, immunizations, and breastfeeding, and sleep, and safe sleep. And in Columbus, it's called the My Baby and Me program. And for those individuals who are pregnant, they'll have the hospital partnership with Mount Carmel and Ohio Health. And then again, when the children are come home, and the home visitation program is through Columbus Public Health. This is really an important program. And last week, when we held the session on the Commission on Black Girls, and the young women up to age 22 were from 11 to 22 were speaking, some of the young mothers were there with their babies. And they said, you know, it's great to have a program that helps us up to our baby being 1 year old, but what happens to us and we get dropped, that's their view, after the baby is 1 year old. And so this program is an important program for those moms that feel as though, what do we need to do after our babies are 1 year old? And so I'm glad that we have this program. If you know of someone that are in need of these resources, please contact 614-724-BABY or 2229. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. The final committee coming before council is the Rules and Reference Committee. I chair that committee. All members serve on it. I have Ordinance 2546-2018 to enact Section 111.35 of the Columbus City Code to govern the procedure for filling vacancies for Columbus City Council. This legislation requires council to hold at least one public hearing prior to the appointment of an individual to a vacant seat on council and extends the time period for filing a vacancy from 30 days to 45 days to allow for this hearing. This legislation codifies the process approved by Columbus voters earlier this year. There was over a year of public discussion and neighborhood input before this measure was placed on the ballot. Columbus voters voted for this, and we need to move this legislation forward to stay in line with that public vote. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, may I get a motion? Please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Ordinance passes. Seeing no further business to come before council, may I get a motion to adjourn? Please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Page, Remy, Stenziano, Tyson, President Harden.
Meeting number 49 is adjourned.